easy to do. So let me, so my name is Karen Gibbs. I'm with By-Hand Consulting. Thank you for joining us. This is the fourth webinar that we put together. The first three are held before the trade show, helping just provide some helpful tips to companies exhibiting in Artisan Resource at New York Now. And this presentation is really thinking about the follow-up. So what we know both from experience and what we know from some of the market data that Emerald Expositions New York Now has put together is that trade shows, and particularly the New York Now show and Artisan Resource, are increasingly becoming contact-driven shows, more so than sales writing shows. So I believe the statistic that New York Now compiled from the last time they surveyed buyers showed that buyers place 85% of their orders after the trade show. So this means that buyers are really using trade shows as an opportunity to A, meet new exhibitors, and B, see the products of their existing exhibitors, but that they're placing orders once they have a chance to get back to their offices, look at all the information that they've collected, and then make that buying decision at home. That's something that, we used to only see from very large companies, from the big department stores and national retail chains and mail order catalogs. And what we're seeing now is that increasingly that's how those medium-sized retailers, regional retailers, and even small independent retailers are working. So what does that mean for all of you, right, as you're following up after the show? So these are really the three questions that we want to seek to answer. How do you convert your show contacts into sales, right? We all, invest a lot of money, huge amount of money and resources and time and expectations in these shows. So how are you going to convert those contacts that you've made into active sales? Two, really, what's the best way to follow up with buyers? How do buyers want to be contacted? How often? What methods do they want to see? So we'll dive into that. The thing, really, all of this is premised on this notion that that there's really three phases of developing a relationship with a buyer. This is something that we see if you're developing a relationship with a wholesaler, as well as even just that small independent retail store. So it's sort of the full range of buyers, is that pretty much every relationship goes through some version of these three phases. How long you spend in each of these phases is sort of dependent on what type of company it is, but there are three very distinct phases. So the first one is what we've titled Getting to Know You. And it's really communication is established, expectations are defined, so they sort of understand who you are as a vendor, you understand who they are as in terms of a buyer, what type of company profile they have. Maybe there's some small orders, maybe custom designs for a wholesale company. It might be just as simple as an exchange of emails and catalogs for a smaller independent store. The next phase, is called Proving the Product. And this is where really they're testing out their market, see if their customer base is interested and will purchase your product. So these could be a small trial order, it could be an order that's meeting your minimum order. It could be for a wholesale company or a larger distributor. It could be that they develop a set of samples. They get those a set of samples out to all of their sales reps and showrooms, right? And they're going to test their market. It could be for a wholesale company, they develop a line and they're showing it in their booth at the New York Now show and other trade shows. For a larger retail store, it could be that they're just going to place a small order and they're going to pilot it in just a few of their flagship stores or a few of their test marketing stores. So that's really the proving the product. And that's where, you're really testing out, do you like working with this company? Do they pay on time? Are they easy to communicate with? And they're seeing really how are you doing as a supplier and how does your product sell? Right? Does it resonate with their customer? What part resonates with their customer? And they'll use that information, right, to then really place that order for the third phase of the relationship, which is what we call reaching profitability. So this is where buyers are placing reorders, right? And they're also placing larger orders. So now basically relationship is established, product sells well in the target customer base that they're reaching. And this is where you're really able to basically both sides, you as a seller and they as a retailer, are able to really become profitable on that product. So just understanding that rhythm of phases is really critical to helping you move through the different sort of chapters of communication with a buyer. Another thing, this is one of our favorite quotes, is the aim of marketing is to know and understand the customer so well that the product or the service fits himself, right? So really there is, as we've spent time exploring in some of the earlier webinars, there's so many different types of customers out there who are interested in global handmade products, from that small independent retail store up to the regional retail stores, mail order catalogs, online stores, fair trade stores, large retailers, and wholesale companies that really understanding who that customer is, who are you trying to sell to, who is your customer, who's actually buying your product, and adapting your messaging and your communication style to meet what their needs are and what they're interested in. So here's sort of the top just kind of checklist that we use in coaching companies. So, and we'll go through each of these steps today, but right after the show, what we want to see everybody doing is really updating your customer list. The second is researching and qualifying your contacts, right? Understanding which of those contacts are really your target customer. Then identifying, kind of prioritizing them. A lot of you have walked away from the show with a lot of contacts. It's, for most small businesses, it's not possible to follow up extensively with each one of those. So how can you identify who your top ones are and really focus in on those? And then communicate. So create a calendar, a checklist of communication, both personalized emails and then some sort of standardized emails so that you can be very methodical about communicating with them. And then also anticipating when you're going to see them again in person. Will be key. So first step of this is your customer list. So we tend to be constantly surprised at how some of even the most established craft exporters sort of keep very loosely organized customer lists. So we really believe that this is one of the biggest assets of your business after your product is your customer list. So really treating that customer list like it's an asset of your business. So a customer list could be as simple as an Excel list. You could invest more heavily into like a Salesforce or a Zoho. There's an Insightly, right? A little more extensive CRM program. We have found that Excel or a Google Sheet is completely and totally sufficient, but it is compiling a list of all of your contacts and your active customers. So keeping that in one place where you're able to refer to it on a regular basis, where you're able to cultivate that list, where you're able to add new contacts, and where you're able to track what kind of business you're doing with them. So you want to have the company name, the buyer name. Maybe you'll end up with multiple buyers per company. You want to have their email, their website, an idea of where they are, what type of company they are, and then start tracking, making those notes. Where did you meet them? What kind of orders are they placing? So you'll be able to analyze the volume of business that you do and sort of how important they are. But this is really key because this is your database of what you're going to use to do regular email outreach to your customers. And that is critical, that regular email outreach using, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but using programs like MyEmma or just simply doing a group email with all of your buyers blind copied in it with some visuals in there is key to converting these contacts into customers. So first step is just to make sure that everybody has a customer list. and that it has rich data in there. So these can be customers that you also find on your own, that people refer to you, that make an inquiry on your website, or perhaps an inquiry via Instagram, right? So the people who you want to regularly touch base with. So that's step number one. Step number two is research those contacts, right? Visit their website, read their blogs, sign up for their newsletters, follow them on social media, get onto their Instagram account. I increasingly hear buyers and brands out there using Instagram for marketing and promotion and brand image. So find them on Instagram and follow them. And then connect to them on LinkedIn. If you're not on LinkedIn already, it's a great way to make a professional contact with buyers. So see if you can find those buyers on LinkedIn, connect with them there, and then continue to use your LinkedIn account as a way to make announcements about your company. And then as you're researching them, right, you want to qualify them. And this is the same matrix that we've used, that we outlined in our webinars before the show. So you want to think about what type of company it is, really small retailer, large retailer, or wholesale company. You want to categorize them by market or product category. So is it home or fashion or gift? And then a bit by that market segmentation, right? Are they mass market? Are they mainstream or luxury? And that's going to help you then sort of make that identification of who's right for you. This is just a reminder from the webinar that we did before the show on sort of what those buyers, those different profiles of companies expect. So encourage you to refer back to this in terms of the offer that you're making them, right? And making sure that the offer that you have, as you're reaching out to them by email, as you're reaching out to them through social media and other, and LinkedIn and other online ways, is really offering them something that they're looking for, right? So that's really key. So now that you've established your customer list, right, or updated it, done some research on those companies that you made contact with at the show, filled out some of those profiles, now is when you really create your communication plan. And it's a combination, right? Your communication plan should be a combination of personalized emails and group emails or newsletters, right? Those sort of update emails. And it's really key that you do both, right? The successful artisan brands out there that we see that are really capturing the investment into these trade shows are the companies that are doing both of these. So in terms of personalized emails, we get a lot of people who say, how many times should I follow up with a buyer? Or I followed up right after the show and they didn't get back to me. That's okay, right? It's okay if they don't get back to you right away, but it's really important that you reach out to them. So what we recommend in terms of reaching out to the contacts that you've made at the show, I would suggest that you don't have to necessarily reach out to every single contact with a personalized email that you made at the show. If you can, that's great. If not, just choose the ones that are most important to you. So maybe those are just 5 buyers or 10 buyers, right? But choose the ones that you think that are the ones that best match your target profile of the buyers you're trying to reach. So we suggest reaching out to them up to 3 times. So I know a lot of you are sending out emails during the show, right? You meet them on a Sunday at the show and you go back to your hotel room Sunday night and are emailing to them. That's great. However, we also have to keep in mind that a lot of those buyers are in the midst of the trade show themselves, right? And so to get your email while they're still at the show is great, but then they're going to return home and they're going to get buried in emails just like you do. So we recommend that you're reaching out to them about 1 week after the show, which is probably when they're back in their office and sort of really filtering through all the information they've collected. And then 1 or 2 times after that, schedule sort of spacing your emails maybe a week or 2 weeks apart. We suggest in all of these you want to address the buyer by name, make it very, very personalized, right? So hopefully you kept some notes during the show as to what they were interested in. So you want to remind them, right? Use these very personalized emails to remind them of what they were interested in your collection, remind them of the conversation you had, remind them of what you offer, right? Make it very personalized to their specific interests. Maybe you talked about something about that was upcoming in their store. Maybe you can refer to that so that triggers their memory. You want to send your catalog, your company profile if you have it, and your price list, so they don't have to go searching for that again in their email inbox. You always want to attach that. And then also try to make your email to them as visual as possible. So can you embed a photo into the email that you're sending them, right? Buyers are very visual, so they are going to react if they have, a personalized email that reminds them of the conversation that you had, and then it also has a very easy to look at visual reminder of the products that you're offering. Make sure you're including all your contact information in the signature line. This is actually something we've heard from buyers. They want to get in touch with you. They want multiple ways to be able to get in touch with you. So make sure the signature line on your email has your name, your phone number, your Skype address, your email, your Instagram account if you have that, Facebook page, website, right? All the ways that they could get in touch with you so they don't have to go searching for you in other ways. Then another thing is create a new message each time you send them a message. So don't just resend the old one of sort of, re-forwarding a message saying, please see my email below, you didn't respond, are you still interested? Try to make it compelling and interesting to them. If a buyer does not respond to you, it does not mean that they're not interested. Right? Sometimes it means they're not interested. But if a buyer doesn't respond, it could also mean that they're just really busy at that time and they're not ready to purchase from you. So it's really important to continue to refresh those messages so that they're not feeling guilty that they haven't responded to you, but that you recognize it might just be it's not the right time for them. So maybe making those messages a little bit different each time, referring back to a different product, a different angle of your business. And also you can recognize, like, I know you're really busy. I just wanted to reach out because I really admire the work you're doing and I'd love to work with you. So as personalized as you can make them is great. So up to 3 times. After that, we got to let them be. Right? After that, we got to assume that either they're not interested at that time or they're just too busy, right? They don't have the space in there, or maybe they're not interested at all, which is fine too. So after this, we want to shift our communication into some kind of updates, right? So these are not pinging them for saying, are you interested in working with me? These are instead saying, hey, look at what we're doing. And so what we recommend doing is either using a newsletter program, or you could also just do group emails, right? So this could be on a quarterly basis. It could be on a monthly basis. We see some brands doing them even more frequently than monthly. I personally don't think that's necessary. I think monthly is the maximum amount that any international artisan business needs to do. Most important, though, is only send these emails when you actually have news, when you have something that's new and exciting to them. If you are just doing an email newsletter to have an email newsletter out there and you're not telling them something that's new or exciting, they'll stop opening them. So it's much better to send out the email when you have something new to tell them. You can use an email newsletter program like MailChimp or MyEmma. You can also just do a group email, but keep them visual. So if you're just doing an email, make sure that, and blind copying all your contacts, right? Don't put them in the CC line. Be sure to put them in the blind copy line. Make sure they're highly visual, right? So they have a very compelling product-oriented visual to them, right? Because that's what buyers respond to products much more than they respond to images of artisans, right? So really keep it product-oriented, visual, emphasizing the handmade quality of what you're doing. And then the other is make it very action-oriented, right? Basically tell them what you want them to do, like check out my new collection, or come visit me in my new showroom, or download this catalog, right? Engage them in these messages. We don't just want to see, read about all the training workshops that we're doing. That's interesting, but you want them to buy from you, right? So keep it very action-oriented, very buying-minded. So here are some examples of some messages, visit our new showroom, check out our new handbag collection, download our spring catalog, right? Hear the story of the artisans we work with, meet Fernando, our master weaver, place your orders by whatever date it is for fall delivery, visit our new website, come visit us at this show. So keep them very, very action-oriented. This is going to show your buyer that, gosh, you guys are out there doing things, new things. You're developing new products. You're continuing to invest in marketing. You're a really dynamic, reliable, innovative company. And that's the kind of companies that buyers want to do business with. So keep them small, keep the messages small and concise and action-oriented. Keep the products visual with product at the forefront. Keep those photos. Keep the email messages very visual with images of product at the forefront is really key. So the next is, be sure to plan on seeing your buyer again. Know that, that 3 phases of a relationship, right? The getting to know you, proving the product, and reaching profitability, those 3 phases pretty much take 3 touches to the buyer, like 3 physical interactions being in front of the buyer. So remember that you need to see your buyer multiple times in order to really solidify that relationship. So either you're going to return back to Artisan Resource. If that's not possible in the short term, maybe you're also exhibiting in another trade show. Maybe there's a regional trade show in your own country that you could participate in. Maybe buyers are coming to those regional shows and you can invite them to see your workshop or showroom. Maybe you are making a trip to the U.S., not necessarily to do a trade show, but will be in the U.S. In that case, go visit the buyer. Right, visit their store, visit their offices, right? Really make sure that you get another chance to see those buyers in person to really service them. So that'll be a key part of developing these relationships. A couple other ideas, if you really have a couple of top buyers that you are so eager to do business with, send them a sample. Or maybe send them a little package of swatches. Don't wait for them to request that sample. If you really feel strongly that there's a buyer that you want to work with, send them a sample. Don't expect them to pay for it, right? But getting a product onto a buyer's desk so that they're looking at your product every day is a great way to remind them that you're out there. So is there a way that you can do sort of a miniature version of your product? If you make pillows, could you do like a little tiny baby cushion pillow, maybe a little 6x6 pillow with some detailing on it that's reminiscent of your other products, and send that to them as just a little reminder? Could you put together a little swatch book, something to entice them with a physical product? Is a great way to show how eager you are, and also just get that product on their desk. As we mentioned before, but this is really key, if you are really keen on working with a company, you need to know as much about them as you possibly can. So be sure to sign up for their newsletter. I do a lot of market research just by all of the email newsletters that I receive from different brands. See what kind of language they're using when they're marketing. These are really marketing pieces for these companies, right, for the brands that you're trying to sell to. But watch the language they're using. Look at how they structure their emails. Look at the types of products they're working with. Be informed. And definitely follow your top prospects on social media. More and more buyers tell me these days that they're finding new products and they're finding vendors on Instagram. So choose your top 5 companies that you either admire the most or want to sell to the most. Follow them on Instagram, then look at who are the other people that are following them and follow those people. This is a great way to collect market data, and also if they start following you, then you can use your Instagram account to post new products and post messages. And then the last is be sure to update your own social media with the same messages that you have from your newsletters. So if we know that Instagram and LinkedIn are two ways that, Instagram being the very visual way that people are connecting, LinkedIn being the more commercial way that people are connecting, make sure that your messages on both those outlets match the messages that you're giving in your email newsletters and in your regular communication with buyers. That kind of brand consistency is really important in creating consistency and reaching out and converting, right, engaging those buyers. So that's kind of, our basic outline of communication. It takes a lot. I mean, I think a lot of people come off of a trade show thinking, well, I did the trade show and now it's over, right? Now I've met my marketing and my sales kind of commitment because I went and did this trade show. The trade show is just the start of the selling. So the trade show is giving you those contacts. Now you have to have a really active sales plan in play to really convert those contacts. So, we recommend that you either have a dedicated person who's responsible for this. If you don't have a dedicated person and you're sort of the entrepreneur who's wearing all the hats in the company, which we can, which is the majority of artisan entrepreneurs out there, make sure that you're dedicating either a certain amount of time every day or a certain amount of time every week to this kind of sales and marketing, so that you're not just responding to emails, right? That's sort of the ongoing basis, but that you're really every week dedicating a couple of hours or a portion of your time to thinking about that more strategic communication planning and creating some of those key messages in order to get those messages out on your social media and through newsletters. So now, this is a very common question that we've seen. What do I do with all the contacts who don't match your target profile? And specifically, right, how do I manage small retailers that I met at Artisan Resource? We know that the vast majority of buyers that attend New York Now are small, independent, quote-unquote mom and pop retailers. For many of you, that's who you are prepared to sell to. For a whole lot of you, that's not who you want to sell to. You need to sell to a larger retail store or a retail store that's ready to make a larger commitment to you, or you're interested in selling to wholesale companies who are going to help distribute your product. So what do you do with all these small retailers? Top 3 things to keep in mind is don't sell them something that they can't buy. So if your minimum order is $1,500 and that small retail store only wants to place a $200 order from them, you have to recognize that they will never place a $1,500 order. Or maybe they will someday, but they're not your top priority. So it's okay to say to certain customers, I can't sell to you because this is my minimum order. You can still keep them on your mailing list to inform them, because you never know if they maybe have a friend who has a retail store that has a larger buying capacity, or you never know that maybe they will someday have a special promotion or a special project that they're working on, where they can meet your minimum. So the second is don't sell them something that you can't sustain. Right? We see a lot of people who their minimum order is $1,500, but because they feel like they got all these independent retail stores, that they're going to go ahead and do little $150 orders in order to sell to them and get the product out. If that is really something you can't sustain in terms of the cost of export or the cost of maintaining so many different relationships with small buyers, don't do it, right? You have to be comfortable in saying no, because you know that no means it's better for their business and better for your business, right? What we want to avoid happening is that you go ahead and drop your minimum in order to sell to them because you want to make them happy, and then maybe you drop your minimum, let's say, to $200. You ship the order to them, but the shipping cost was $100, right? They're not going to be happy because that's not what they expected in terms of shipping costs, and then nobody ends up happy. So just be very confident in that. Don't sell them something that you can't sustain and that ultimately is not sustainable for them. And create a message that meets their needs and yours. And this is really back to that researching your target customer and knowing that what you're offering them is what they want and also what sustains your business. So what do you do though with all of those small retail stores if you can't sell to them? We do recommend that you put them on their mailing list, on your mailing list. But your follow-up email might be an email that looks like this, you know, that thanks them for visiting your booth and interest in your products, and, you know, acknowledge that you would love to have your product in their store. This would be a sample email that somebody who is possibly looking for a wholesaler or distributor. And then tell that retail store, you know, we're looking for a wholesaler to work with. And once we get that wholesaler set up, we would love to reach out to you so you can buy our product. But also, if you have any suggestions of wholesalers, we're looking for them. Oftentimes, those small retail stores are your best way to find a wholesaler or perhaps a sales rep that wants to work with you. So consider those small retailers as your kind of friends and supporters, even maybe if they can't actively purchase from you. And then keep them on your email list. Keep them updated of what you're doing, because you never know what leads might come from them. And lastly, I just want to remind everybody, and this is a daunting, definitely a daunting sort of statistic to look at, but the timeline to develop relationships with new customers is somewhere between that 9, can be up to 24 months if it's a really large wholesale company. So just factor that into your long-term communication plan. If a customer doesn't get back to you within a couple weeks at the show, recognize that they may still be a customer for you in the future, just not right now. So really taking that long-term view in terms of cultivating your customer base, and recognizing that even though those customers might not place an order immediately, that they are your future customer is really key to making this work in the long term. Again and again, we hear people who have exhibited at Artisan Resource make contacts, say, you know, I met this buyer 9 months ago, I met this buyer a year ago, we stayed in touch, she just placed a big order, right? Because it just takes that time to develop that relationship and for it to be the right time for the buyer to place an order. So those are my kind of key tips on how to cultivate orders, how to cultivate business from all of the contacts that you've made at the show, and really recognizing that, you know, we're not just a, it's not, trade shows are not your sole marketing and sales activity. You really have to have ongoing marketing and sales to convert all of these contacts into active customers and active customers placing reorders. So does anybody have any questions? For right now, if it works, I'd love to use that the chat feature. And if not, I can unmute everybody as well.
Hey, Karen.
Hi.
Hey, this is Kennedy.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
I have one question. So you mentioned possibly sending samples. One, is it totally too much to ask if you send like not a mini sample, like an actual good sample with like a paid stamped return envelope, or is that just asking them to do something, you know, like extra that is too much?
I think you could definitely do it. I would, you know, with the caveat that, you don't, you're not depending on them to return it to you.
Right, right. And maybe say like, hey, if you get a chance, we'd love.
Yeah. Yep,
Okay.
exactly. I just wanted to show this to you. I know you're interested in New York. Would love, if you're not interested in it, I've enclosed an envelope so you can return it to me.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay.
I have another question.
Yeah, go for it.
So for photos, like for sending photos in an email, photos on your website, this is something that we've kind of started to struggle with and feel like our photos are no longer as professional as we want to be. Are most of your brands taking their own photos or hiring a photographer? How often are they hiring a photographer?
Yeah, so I would say that the majority of people are taking their own photos. And I would say probably 20% of them have hired a photographer, and they've hired the photographer whenever they're sort of launching that new collection. So some people are doing new collections twice a year. Some people are doing them 4 times a year. I think that's a lot for a small artisan business. Yeah. Sometimes so 1, 2, or 4 times a year. The people doing it 4 times a year tend to be very, very fashion oriented. I personally haven't seen that work. I think twice a year is kind of the target. Okay. So that's, and then, there's so many interesting, in fact, one thing I thought to do was research some of the online webinars about taking, good quality photos, just even with smartphones and very simple cameras, but, a white background photo. So is the simplest and the best thing to do. I think that people so often want to have lifestyle photos because that's what we see in the magazines. Lifestyle photos where it's on a model or it's, it's taken in a setting that's kind of reflective of the brand is really, really, really hard to do in comparison to just taking a very simple, very clean, image photo of a product on a white background. You can do a really nice, you have a beautiful photograph of your product on a white background. You do a little tile of 3 of them in an email newsletter. That is almost more compelling to a buyer than a photo taken in a lifestyle setting.
Should we, do you feel like to be successful at this we need to invest in a good camera, or is this something you actually can do with an iPhone?
I think it's something you can do with an iPhone. I've seen people do it with an iPhone.
Okay, thanks. That's really helpful.
Yep. And I'll try to, I'll put that on my list of things to do is look up some of those videos. But for how to take a good quality photo.
Yeah, I mean, we'll also look them up, and I can send you any that are, but if you find one that you think sticks out, that would be great.
Yeah, and I think that the key thing to know is that, a photo on a white background, in our experience, and one that gives a sense of the detail, right, a sense of the handmade product, so it's a close-up photo of the product that really, speaks to the handmade aspects of it, that is more compelling than a photo taken in a lifestyle. I mean, the lifestyle ones just are so tricky to do well.
Yeah.
And we've actually seen some images of, if you want to give a sense of place of where the product comes from, people oftentimes try to do that sense of place by, getting a model and trying to show the products on the model in the place that it's from.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
It's really hard.
it's really hard to do. And so if you did a product on a white background and then did, you know, a beautiful shot of an artisan, right?
Mm-hmm.
That combination is almost more compelling and more impactful than trying to get, you know, a photo shot of a lifestyle setting in that context.
Okay.
Or, you know, for you guys, a beautiful photograph, a set of, you know, 3 photographs of your products up close, and then 3 photographs of, you know, beautiful mountain, sort of the environment of where those products come from, I think is almost, is just as compelling as trying to do it with a model.
Would that go for the lookbook too, or do you think for the lookbook you really need to have lifestyle photos?
I think you can do a lookbook with artisan photos and photos on white backgrounds.
Okay, interesting.
Hey, Karen.
Hi, Anis, how are you?
Dennis. Good, how are you?
I'm good.
I have two questions.
Yeah.
My first question is, what you said sending email with newsletter or follow-up emails. So in our case, having several artisans, what's the maximum pictures you recommend to highlight in that email?
Yeah, so it's great. You know what I would do for you, Anis, is I would probably highlight 1 or 2 artisan groups in each email, and then always have a list of like your catalog or your directory, right? So that you're using that artisan story. And I might even, you know, in your case, you could do an email, you know, kind of start a format of, you know, this is our company profile newsletter, right? And it's going to be every other week, and you're going to feature a different artisan business, or once a month and you featured a different one, or 2. I wouldn't do more than 2. And then always have that directory and encourage them to say, you know, here's the profile of this company, but here's the directory of all the companies.
Okay, very good. Thank you. My second question is, we started this show, the payment in the booth, so we can take orders and make payment in the booth.
Right.
And we were not sure. What we did is we took 50% down payment. Now we are planning to go and collect the remaining 50% and ship the orders from the warehouse here.
Yeah.
What is your advice in terms of moving forward? I felt like the 50% was not a good idea. Some of them, they even paid the 50%, but we didn't hear back from them. From your personal experience, should we start collecting the 100% in the next show, or how do other people do when buyers place the order in the booth?
Sure. So once you, for the most part, that people, for retail stores in the U.S. that are paying by credit card, the most standard thing is that you just charge 100% of the product at the time that you're shipping the product. So it gives
the shipping.
So when you go to ship it, but you want to collect that credit card information from them at the show. So you document it on the sales order form, but you don't actually charge their card until you're shipping the product from your warehouse to them. So that way, they're not basically paying for something before it's assured to be en route. So, but you also are assured of getting paid because you are, you know, you're collecting a bit essentially at the time the product leaves your warehouse.
Excellent. Okay. That's good to know.
I would say doing like a 50% deposit on their first order, and after that you're just going to do, you know, your pay by credit card essentially means their credit card gets charged when you ship the product.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more questions? So we are always here. My email address is on this last slide. please don't hesitate to email me with any questions that you might have, both about the follow-up or about specific orders or even specific customers. We're here to help you be as successful as possible.
Thank you very much.
So
That
much,
was very helpful.
Thank you. We'll talk to you later.
You guys are so great. Thank you so much.
Bye.